Operating at an extraordinary level can seem challenging. Learn how to survive in the lone wolf economy in the OG Money Podcast with Lonnie Ogulnick. Drawing on over 20 years of experience in the trenches of Wall Street, Lonnie explores what it takes to be successful in today's rapidly changing environment. From daily routines, wealth strategies, and sustaining the highest levels of wisdom, Lonnie and his guests unpack proven ways to live an extraordinary life.
Welcome to the OG Money Podcast. This is the first State of the Union. A little bit of a freestyle. We're going to go over some of the things that we learned in the first course that I would say was a bit of an experiment, just something fun. I launched on my Instagram stories just a couple of years ago. We were playing around, having a little bit of fun, putting some content out about positive, motivational speaking and just trying to put people on the path. It's a little bit of a passion of mine, staying positive, staying focused on the goal, and, spreading that, getting people into a positive frame of mind. I don't think that it's easy for me to stay positive. It gets easier when you help others stay positive. I think that's true in anything in life. I think when you learn and you teach, you learn more. So whether that's, sports, whether that's jujitsu, whether that's the financial world, stock markets, charting, when you're showing people and helping them, you're actually helping yourself. And I think that's true when I'm speaking to my audience, all my OG Money Podcast listeners. I got a lot of feedback. Everybody seems to really enjoy it. People ask me how many listeners I have and this and that. I don't really track it. I really don't care. I'm doing this for people that are interested in a little bit of positivity, a little reality, the way it is, and getting themselves just better, right? Like, what in life is our goal but to keep ourselves, on the path of getting better. So it's a never-ending journey. Some people will like the way I present and the way that I talk, and others won't, and that's okay. The people that gravitate towards the OG Money Podcast and Gordon Wealth and like the Heart of the Beast, they know all of this is done with the right intentions, right? So no matter what you're doing in life, if you're doing it with the right intentions, then I think you're heading in the right direction. So a couple of key takeaways that I think I liked from some of the podcasts this year. Shaking hands with the worst case scenario, right? So what in your life can happen that's the worst? And once you identify that and you go forward and you map out a game plan, to stay away from that worst case scenario, you kind of are at ease and you're at peace. So when you look at life, what can go wrong? Plan for what can go wrong and then work forward from there. Another thing that I kind of really believe that's like my code in life, there's two codes in life. One is action alleviates anxiety. I don't know if I have high anxiety or not. I think most people deal with anxiety and they try to hide it in their cell phones. They try to hide it in watching movies. They, escape through things that maybe, drugs and alcohol, whatever it is. Those are negative ways. The positive ways to handle anxiety, in my opinion, is through play. Have fun, work out, do things out of your comfort zone, like a cold plunge. Why would I do a cold plunge? I don't do it really for any other reason that I like to start my day off with something really painful and annoying and discomfort. That discomfort, really is just a quick momentary discomfort, but it helps you out throughout the entire day when you have, some more serious discomforts. It's just a little easier. There are also benefits for your bones, your heart rate, your blood flow. That goes with the sauna, the steam room, the workout, all these things that you're doing that may not feel so great. It hurts, it's harmful while you're doing it. You're like, oh, this sucks, da-da-da-da-da. But when you're done, you feel amazing. So there's a lot to be said that pain before pleasure. That's the key. Another key, and it's the oldest thing in the world, right? It's from the Old Testament. you got do unto others as you want done to you. It's such a simple thing, but it's so hard for people to do. The old kindness is the highest wisdom. It's a simple thing, but, we got to remind ourselves every single day, sprinkle in a little humor and, life is a little easier. It's more fun. Those are some of the tidbits I got, from the health, wealth, and wise, right? So those are health and wise. We're constantly reading wise so that we can get smarter. Podcasts so we can get smarter. Audiobooks now, to catch tidbits of gold to help us on the path. I don't think we can ever stop our journey of learning and growth. That's the key to life. Now we're going to wrap up, that section here and head into the money portion of OG Money Podcast. The OG stands for, what are the old school guys, what are those guys doing that make them so successful? And let's interview them. Let's find out what they're doing and let's pick their brains. But, some people tune in on the money side. Like, what are you doing to have money, to have success? And I think that money kind of just gives you the ability to really just maintain a life that you choose and not the life that someone else chooses for you. It makes my life, it's been my goal since I graduated college. I don't work well with others. I can't be told what to do. Some people can, and that's okay. And if you're making, $50,000 a year, $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, whatever your number is, and you're happy and you're comfortable in that, well, that's fine. There's no right, wrong, or indifferent. I know plenty of people that you can see at the beach that have smiles and laugh, and they're having the life of a rock star on $100,000 a year in income. And then you can look at billionaires who are depressed and miserable. With that said, I think from the market standpoint, we're really living in a wild, transformational experiment. Now, within that experiment, we have maybe the most transformational technology revolution that we've ever seen. I think it's bigger, much bigger than the Web 1.0 from 95 to 2000, when we really were born into the internet and this new technology that spawned the likes of Apple and Amazon and Google, Facebook, Twitter. Those all, started as little seeds. What we're seeing now through the real digital wave, this is something that's dematerializing things like gold. Gold is now, the Bitcoin is now really eating up what was once a traditional safe haven inflationary protection asset like gold. And why would Bitcoin be doing that? Well, maybe it's just because we're moving into a time where technology's kind of eating everything. Software is eating everything, right? We used to have a lot more cameras. We used to have a lot more video cameras and maps, and everything got dematerialized into a cell phone, right? So gold over the last 10 years has been down around 5%, when it should have been maybe one of the better asset protections, because the government's printing a tremendous amount of money over the last 10 to 15 years. It's just not doing what it was designed to do, where things like Bitcoin are. And then you have Ethereum. This is a smart contract that is relatively new, and from a regulation standpoint, things are happening so fast, I'm not so sure that the regulators in DC have the ability to keep up with the pace of the technology and the speed in which it's happening. Decentralized finance sort of, cuts out a lot of the middlemen, cuts out a lot of the banking. NFTs, non-fungible tokens, artists, once maybe they made a piece of art for $5,000, sold it, and that was it. Today, that artist can, put into a non-fungible token, sell that piece of art, and then they get paid 10% royalties every time it gets sold in the future. So they, and then their family and their grandchildren, will continue to make money if that art piece becomes a hit and maybe one day sells for $25 million. That person that did that piece of work, their family will get paid on that. So that goes for musicians and athletes, and the whole world is just sort of kind of in the beginning stages, a little nugget of this digital revolution. So I think that I'm very excited to see where all this plays out. The financial world and the stock market and the bond market is intriguing to me in the sense that we did see the interest rates at zero during the Obama years, right after the 2008 financial crash. And they started experimenting with QEs 1, 2, 3, 4, Operation Twist, the attempt to unwind. All those programs were hit with massive selling and volatility. And then we did have some interest rate hike under the Trump years. And then COVID hit and we hit zero again. And then we just accelerated the experiment from the '08 crisis. And the amount of money that's been printed is just gargantuan if you think about the pace in which we're just creating dollars. Those dollars that are getting created, though, you would think would have such a negative effect or an inflationary effect, which we're seeing it in some areas of the world. But everyone in the world is really doing the same thing. It's the same playbook. So everybody's creating dollars. The deflationary part of that is that technology is driving down the costs of everything. So you have this deflationary technology force that's, pushing down the price of, televisions and, all things that we need or use. And the dollars just getting printed in circulation are increasing because of, a pandemic that's hit. So where does this all go and how do we get out of that is the question that I have, that I'm not so sure we're going to get out of this in the historical sense of like getting 6% on a 10-year treasury bond. I mean, they're around 1.25% right now. So when we look at like the interest rate, that's the risk-free interest rate of 1.25%, but the money supply is increasing by about 10% a year. How does a traditional bond investor, really make money today? And that's a question I've been, kind of grappling with myself, because if you're making a 3% net before tax return on a diversified income and equity portfolio, what if your real inflation rate in which you're spending money year over year is increasing at 5%, right? So that would mean that you're losing 2% to 2.5% on your money really every year on a 3% return. And I say this half jokingly, but we're almost living in a world that like the NASDAQ is becoming the safe haven asset class. Things like Apple and Amazon, if you just bought and held those, you did a lot better over the last couple of years than holding, say, a 10-year treasury bond. Historically speaking, when interest rates go down, bond prices go up. With interest rates at these levels, you can't go over the last 30 years. Interest rates were at 17 or 18% and have come down to 1.25% on a 10-year, and even less, almost zero on a very short-term interest rate. So we know that we can't go backwards, right? We can't go to a negative 18% interest rate. So rates either have to stay artificially low for the foreseeable future, or they go up. And if they go up, that would cause a slowdown and potentially even a deflationary spiral. So I'm not so sure that the Fed's going anywhere anytime soon. That's my professional opinion, watching the history of Japan and other places that have already done this experiment. So I think that, riskier portfolios going forward, leaning more towards the equities, the S&P, the NASDAQ, and traditional 60-40s are probably going to be 60 equity, 20 fixed income as a kind of just balancer, as a safe haven for crises, and then 20 something else, whether that's emerging markets and some Bitcoin sprinkled in there, and things that are a bit more riskier to at least give you a 5 to 10% total return for your traditional, I would say, modern portfolio theory. For those looking at more riskier assets, I'm tending towards the next 10 years will be a Bitcoin, Ethereum, NFT, DeFi. Those stocks that are in that environment are going to be the next 10 years. Apple, Google, Facebook, the Microsofts, and in next 10 years will be a different brand, but similar type performance. Not looking for an Amazon to repeat the performance they've had over the last 10 years. So from a Gordon Wealth standpoint, we're going to tend to look for things that are attaching themselves in some way, shape, or form to the next generation of technology. So we'll see how this all plays out. But I would say it's a very exciting time to be investing in the stock market. Gordon Wealth's philosophy is much more of a tactical solution, and we tend to be more concerned with protecting that downside, watching, if in case of another deflationary scare. The real economy out there right now is still suffering from the effects of not just the slowdown in business, but also the effects of inflation in their real businesses. I think that's being offset by the printing presses, and as long as the government's going to supply, endless amounts of funds, that money always tends to find its way into the equity markets. There'll be fits and starts, most likely, these, fast 10, 15% corrections that scare some people out, and then we'll probably just, see the Fed react and say, hey, everything's okay, and then we power ahead. What kind of black swans are out there? We don't know, but we will see them. It's just part of the market cycles. So as long as you have a game plan, you're looking out into the future, and you're comfortable with your risk tolerance, and you're comfortable with your financial advisor and what they're doing for you, that's good. Just stay on top of everything. In the world today, it looks to me like we have a bit of a chaos in the world. We don't know how things are going to, kind of settle down. But with that said, we have a lot of things that are optimistic and positive to look forward to in the future. So I'm going to continue season 2 with, looking for guests of people who think outside the box, who enjoy living their life to the fullest, who give us their secrets to living well, whether they're rich, whether they're, rich in soul, but not financially, as rich as they, as other people. But I think the key lesson I've learned is money, makes things easier for some people. It makes things harder for some people. Money isn't the solution. I think money basically makes, your life, the ability to have more options. But the key to success isn't based on money. The key to success is following your inner passion, that little kernel that you had since you were a little child, that interest, whether that's coding, whether that's sports, whether that's selling, whether that's, the interest of the human body in medicine, or law protecting you and others from fraudulent people. So you have to really find that kernel and follow that path. So with that said, I'll be searching and seeking out people. I'll do a little bit more of these State of the Unions on the market and what I'm seeing and what I'm feeling. But in a nutshell, I'm still thinking that, inflation, the playbook is to kind of just inflate assets, because the inverse and the other option, to let things fall apart, would be too devastating for the government to bear. So they'll prop up the markets and continue to buy bonds, continue to buy mortgages, and maybe even equities. Who knows? We'll see. But I would seek financial advice from your financial advisor. If you have any questions for me personally, you can always dial me in, text me, call me, set up a meeting, and we can assess your situation. But other than that, I really appreciate the listeners. The OG Money Podcast gang, thank you very much for giving me a first full year of having fun, and I look forward to season 2 and the next year of speaking with you guys. And thanks for all the feedback I get on the internet, and also, when I see you in person. So enjoy yourselves, get out there, be a beast, and good luck.
Thank you for listening to the OG Money Podcast. Click the subscribe button below to be notified when new episodes become available.